Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Our stars this evening are three. In the order of their appearance, they are Walter Hampton, one of the theater's proudest names for 2 generations, and Susan Hayward and Lee Bowman, 2 of Hollywood's brightest younger stars. The story called The Dead Sleep Lightly by John Dixon Carr is tonight's tale of suspense. If you've been with us on these Tuesday nights, you will know that suspense is compounded of mystery and suspicion and dangerous adventure. In this series are tales calculated to intrigue you, to stir your nerves, to offer you a precarious situation, and then withhold the solution until the last possible moment. And so, with The Dead Sleep Lightly, and with the performances of Walter Hampton, Susan Hayward, and Lee Bowman, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
Ashes to ashes, and dust to dust.
Meadowvale Cemetery, not far from New York. Meadowvale Cemetery, on a dim gray morning in early April, when rain forms a mist across leafless trees and white gravestones. You see, over there, the group of silk-hatted gentlemen, each with his protecting umbrella, gathered around an open grave. You see the clay soil freshly dug. You can hear perhaps the creaking of support as the coffin is lowered into its everlasting house. And the droning voice of the clergyman.
I am the resurrection and the life, saith the Lord. He that believeth on me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Live?
Quiet, Mr. Templeton, please.
What's wrong with old Templeton?
Please, sir, remember where you are.
She's not alive, I tell you. She's not alive.
It might seem a long distance, that, from the Cosmopolites Club in Gramercy Park on the following evening, when that same well-fed man, as hard and unemotional as the diamond pin in his tie, hurries up the steps into the club and...
What? Yes, Mr. Templeton? Tell me, Mr. Wilmot in the club, do you know?
Yes, sir. Don't you see him?
See him? Where?
In the lounge over there, sir. Sitting by the fire.
Yes, of course. I'm a little upset. You're a good fellow, Henry. I won't forget you.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me, sir, but aren't you going to take off your hat and overcoat?
Well, never mind my hat and coat. Just tell me one other thing. When I came into the club, was there anybody following me?
Following you, Mr. Templeton?
Yes, a woman. A woman with a long skirt and a heavy black veil.
There aren't many women who wear that kind of dress nowadays, sir.
Look out into the street. You see anybody?
No, sir. There's just...
What's that?
Oh, that's only the old street musician, sir. He doesn't mean any harm.
I won't have that tune played, you hear? I'm used to getting my orders obeyed, and I'm going to have this one obeyed. Here's some money. Go out and tell him to go away.
Yes, sir, if you insist, but...
Do as you're told and don't ask questions. If anybody wants me, I shall be with Mr. Wilmot.
Very good, sir.
Good evening, Wilmot. Mind if I sit down for a minute?
Oh, not at all. Pull up a chair. Have some coffee?
No, thanks. I'll get down to brass tacks right away.
Yes, you always do. I've noticed that.
Well, I'm a pretty self-sufficient kind of a fellow, Wilmot. I made a name for myself, even if I do say it myself. But, well, the fact is, I need advice.
A successful publisher asking advice from one of his own authors. That's something new, isn't it?
Now, look here, Wilmot, I'm serious.
All right. I take it back. What's on your mind?
Well, you've studied what we'll call the supernatural, haven't you?
I've lectured and written books about it, yes.
And did you ever meet a ghost?
No, I can't say I ever did. Have you?
It might only be my own imagination. Yes, that's what scares me. You get on in years, and your arteries harden, and you don't take enough exercise, and you think something ought to be done about your waistline, but you never bother. You see, Wilmot, I went to a funeral yesterday.
You did? Whose funeral was it?
The person who died has nothing to do with this. It was old Simpson of Harley and Sons. We thought it was only decent to make up a party and go to the funeral. I took my secretary along, a girl named Molly Carroll. I'm leaving for Washington tomorrow. Besides, I'm moving house. So there was a lot of work to do. What I couldn't stand was that infernal cemetery in the rain. And we must have gone in by the wrong gate, because we were in a neglected, desolate part of the cemetery where the rank grass grew over the grave. You'll oblige me, Miss Carroll, if you first find out the proper directions about places. You've come in the wrong gate to the cemetery.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Templeton. I thought
What you thought doesn't matter now. This is the wrong part of the cemetery. My shoes are absolutely ruined with wet clay.
Well, it isn't doing my own shoes and stockings any good either, Mr. Templeton.
If there's been any damage to them, Miss Carroll, I'll replace them. You never found me ungenerous, now have you?
Well, not exactly ungenerous, no.
I'll pay you the compliment, Miss Carroll, saying that you're the best secretary I ever had.
Thank you.
Yes, you want to leave me.
Yes, I want to get married.
That's what Mr. Barnes is telling me. And who is this paragon of yours? What does he do? Does he make any money?
Well, Frank's a radio technician. He's not very wealthy, I'll admit.
Wealthy? A radio technician? I'll bet he doesn't make as much as I pay you. Yes, you want to get married.
Well, is there anything very strange about that?
Yes, if it interferes with your career, if it... Good Lord. Look at that.
Look at what, Mr. Templeton?
Over there, where I'm pointing.
You mean that? It's only an old gravestone covered with weeds and brambles.
I haven't seen that grave in years.
It looks rather neglected.
It is neglected, isn't it? Will you go closer, please, and read the inscription?
Mr. Templeton,
Do as I tell you, please.
it says... Let's see if I can get some of these weeds aside. It says... Sacred to the memory of Mary Ellen Cleaver, born September 5th, 1892, departed this life March 25th, 1919. Thou shouldst still be adored as this moment thou art. Let thy loveliness fade as it will. If you lower that umbrella, Mr. Templeton, you'll get soaking wet.
Sentimental crash. But she always liked it.
She always liked it.
Mary Ellen Cleaver.
Did you know her?
Very well indeed. She was my wife.
Your wife? But I never knew you were married.
Neither does anybody else. Where's my flask of brandy? What have I done with it?
It's in your hip pocket, Mr. Templeton, but do you think that's very wise? You've already had more than enough.
Whatever I do is wise, Miss Carroll. Well, we were married very young. She was a nice little thing. I was fond of her, yes. But she couldn't have helped me. I'm not a snob, but she wasn't in my class. No style, you know, no manners, no education.
Indeed.
Could I have introduced her to the friends I was making? No. Wouldn't have been kind to her. She didn't even want to go to the places where I was invited. She'd sit at home and say, what was it like? Did you have a nice time? What was Mrs. So-and-so wearing? And she loved me. I'll put that to her credit. But...
You left her?
I thought it was the kindest thing to do, yes. She went away. Then I heard she'd had...
Had what?
Nothing. Doesn't matter. Well, there was a war on. I attended the peace conference in Europe. Never even knew she was dead until I heard some friends had buried her. I always promised to call her up. She said she'd come back to me if I did.
You couldn't call her up now, Mr. Templeton, even if you wanted to.
No, I suppose not. But I was fond of her. I wish there was something I could do.
Well, you could have her grave cared for. Have some flowers put on it.
That's it. That's an idea. She'd have liked that. Can you take care of that for me?
I'll look after it tomorrow morning, Mr. Templeton.
But how will they ever be able to locate the grave? There must be thousands in this cemetery.
Well, each grave has a number, you know, cut into the stone so you can identify it. This is number 1212.
1212. Sounds like a telephone number, doesn't it?
Yes, doesn't it?
Meadowvale 1212. Poor girl. I was fond of her.
Please, Mr. Templeton, come along and please, no more brandy. You've got a funeral to attend.
And then, Wilmot, the night came. And the horror.
What horror? Take it easy, man. There's nothing to worry about. You were sitting here in the Cosmopolites Club.
Yes, but I wasn't sitting in the club last night. I was on my way home.
And why should that scare you?
I don't know, but it did. I'd been jumpy all day. That infernal number kept running through my head. Meadowvale, 1212. Have you ever seen my house?
Yes, it's that big sham Gothic place on Riverside Drive, isn't it?
Yes, big and dark and drafty like a mausoleum. I told you it was moving house to an apartment downtown. But there were some papers there I had to get out of the safe in the library to take with me to Washington tomorrow. I knew the servants would be gone, of course. But I hoped Mrs. Bloom, that's my housekeeper, would still be there. Then I went up the park about 6:30.
Meadowvale, 1212. Meadowvale, 1212. Meadowvale, 1212.
Meadowvale, 1212.
Templeton. This is a surprise.
Sorry to trouble you, Mrs. Bloom. I seem to have mislaid my key. The other could have sworn I had it on my key ring this morning.
It's no trouble, Mr. Templeton. Only, I hope you're not planning to spend the night here.
No, I'm going to a hotel. Why do you ask?
Because they've disconnected everything except the electricity and taken away most of the furniture.
I haven't touched anything in the library.
No, sir. I told them you said to leave that. But it does seem a pity in a way.
What seems a pity?
To break up a lovely home like this after all these years.
Home? This big, ugly picture gallery?
It's been a home to me, sir.
I've treated you generously, haven't I?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I've got several hours' work to do, Mrs. Bloom. A whole safe full of papers to sort over. I'm going to the library and... What's that you're hiding behind your back?
I'm not hiding anything, sir.
All the same, what is it?
It's only a music box, sir. I found it in the attic when the moving men were here. If I hadn't known there were, well, no ladies in your life, I'd have said it belonged to one of them. I love to hear them, sir. May I?
Mrs. Bloom.
Yes, sir.
If you don't want me to smash that music box, turn it off.
Yes, sir, I'm sure I never...
I'm going to the library. If you can find any sandwiches and coffee, bring them.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Same old library. Same old Crawford desk. There's the Venetian mirror she bought for him. Look at yourself in the mirror, Templeton. Admit you can't face it. Admit you can't work here tonight. Admit you've got to have lights and music and... That's it. Go out for dinner. Telephone Wilmot. If they've left the phone... Oh, yes. Good. Here it is. Hello.
Yes, sir. Number, please. Number, please.
I want, Meadowvale 1212.
Meadowvale 1212.
Wait, what the devil's name am I saying? Change that, I want...
Hello, my darling. I knew you'd call me when you needed me.
Who's that speaking? Who are you?
It's Mary Ellen, dear. Don't you recognize my voice?
You're not Mary Ellen. This is trick. Mary Ellen is dead.
Yes, dear. But the dead sleep lightly, and they can be lonely, too. And now that you do need me...
I don't need you. I don't need anybody.
I'm coming back to join you, dear. It's not easy, but I'll be there by the time the clock strikes 7. I'll wear a veil because I don't look very pretty.
I won't stand this. I won't listen to you. I won't...
Goodbye, my dear. Remember, when the clock strikes 7...
Mrs. Bloom!
Mr. Templeton, what on earth is the matter?
Who's been playing tricks on me?
Tricks, sir. I don't understand.
Who spoke to me on this phone?
But, sir, nobody could have spoken to you on that phone.
Nobody could have. What are you talking about?
That phone's disconnected, sir.
Disconnected?
Yes, sir. The man came here this afternoon and took that little metal box off the wall and rolled all the wires up and put everything on the desk there. Said he'd be back tomorrow to take it away.
Mrs. Bloom, that's impossible.
Look for yourself, sir. You're standing in the middle of the room holding that phone, and the wires don't lead anywhere.
That's true.
So you couldn't very well have talked to anybody on the phone that wasn't connected? Now, could you?
I tell you, I got the operator. I heard it ring. I talked to someone else.
Oh? And what did that person say?
She said she'd be here to visit me when...
Mr. Templeton, what's the matter?
And so, Wilmot, that's what happened last night. The phone was disconnected. It was Mary Ellen's voice. There's no doubt about that. Am I out of my mind or what?
Before I say anything about that, my friend,
Well,
let's hear the end of your story. What did happen when the clock struck 7?
I don't know.
You don't know.
No, I lost my head. Ran out of that house as though the devil were after me. Maybe he was.
And since then?
I spent the night at the hotel. Today, I've walked past that house 50 times, 100 times, trying to muster up enough nerve to go in. I couldn't do it, but I've got to go in there.
Why?
It's those papers I've got to take to Washington.
Send somebody else to get them.
I can't do that, Wilmot. It's confidential information for the government. I've thought of everything. I've even bought a revolver, see?
For the love of heaven, man, put that gun away. You want the other club members to think you have gone insane?
Then I thought of you. You know all the tricks of fake spiritualists. You've written about it and lectured about it.
Which reminds me, by the way, that I'm lecturing before the Acropolis Club in about 20 minutes.
You've got to break that engagement, Wilmot.
Why?
Because you're going with me to my house tonight, now.
That's impossible, old man. Now sit quietly and listen to me. I'll go with you willingly, tomorrow morning.
That's too late. I'm taking an early train to Washington.
Well, then wait until I can get away from the lecture. Say, around midnight. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take a taxi and join you as soon as I can.
That won't do. I've got to know the answer now. You understand?
Aren't you being a little unreasonable about this?
Unreasonable or not, I usually get my own way, and I mean to have it now.
Well, then I'm afraid you'll have to go to the house alone. Besides...
You know, Wilmot, you worry me. You sit there puffing at that pipe and looking at me out of those queer eyes of yours like a young Satan. I've often wondered what you were really thinking about.
Since you flatter my intelligence so much, I was wondering whether you'd been quite frank with me.
Frank with you, how?
About your late wife, Mary Ellen Cleaver.
What about her?
Well, after she left you, something happened that, you don't like to talk about. Was there, by any chance, a child, a son, for instance, or...
Did you say a son?
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, then let's agree not to understand each other, shall we?
Now, are you coming with me or aren't you?
I tell you, man, I'll get there as soon as I can.
All I can think about is the wet red clay in that cemetery, and the dismal graves in the rain, and what her face might look like if she raised the veil, and what am I going to see in that house? What am I going to see in that house?
So the clock chimes, the hours dwindle, the traffic roar of the city sinks to a low growl behind twinkling lights. It is midnight, when a taxi moves along a certain street towards a certain house out of a bygone age. Lightless, black against the stars, surrounded by iron railings and with a path bordered by fir trees leading to the front door. Look, too, with the face of Mr. Patrick Wilmot when that taxi draws.
All right, driver. This is the place.
I'll be in wait for you, sir.
No, you needn't wait. Keep the change.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
So the front gate is open. And he did go in. And... I beg your pardon. I didn't mean to bump into you.
Mr. Wilmot.
You know who I am.
Oh, yes. I've seen you several times at our office. I'm Molly Carroll, Mr. Templeton's secretary.
What are you doing here?
Well, it's Mr. Templeton.
What about him?
Well, that's what I want to know. I was out with Frank, that's my fiancé, and when I got home, the girl I room with said that Mr. Templeton had been phoning and phoning all evening. She said he sounded drunk or something. He wanted somebody to go with him to this house.
Evidently, I wasn't the only person he applied to. Shall we go in?
Yes, but The whole house is dark. Suppose he isn't there.
He's there, all right. You don't know men like Bert Templeton.
But
I'll push the gate wider. Now, straight up the walk to the front door. I've got a flashlight.
what are we going to find?
Something rather unpleasant, I'd better warn you.
How do you know?
I have my ways of knowing, Miss Carroll.
Oh, look.
What is it?
That French window to the left of the front door.
Yes.
It's partly open.
Well, there's nothing in that, necessarily. Templeton said he'd lost his key. He might have had to open a window.
Oh, that's true, but...
So you see it, too, do you?
See what?
There's a footprint across the sill of that French window. A footprint made in wet clay.
It's like the clay of the cemetery.
So I should imagine. Will you go in first, or shall I?
Into that dark room, I will not.
Well, then stay here, please, until I get some lights on.
No, wait. I'll go. Let me take your arm.
All right, be careful now. Yes, I thought so. This room is the library. And there are more footprints of somebody or something walking in. They lead... Who's there? Who's there?
It's only me, sir. Mrs. Bloom, the housekeeper.
Then what's the idea of standing in a dark room in the middle of the night with what sounds like...
It's only a music box, sir. I left it behind along with some other things and came back to get them. I've got my own key. I thought I heard a noise in here.
But why aren't there any lights?
The electricity's cut off, sir. It was cut off today.
I see. Templeton is here, or was here. He must have had some kind of light. If I turn this flashlight on the desk, maybe... Be quiet, Miss Carroll.
What is it, sir? I'm as blind as a bat without my glasses.
It's Mr. Templeton. He's lying on the floor beside the desk.
Oh, he isn't...
No, he isn't dead. But his face is the color of putty. I think he's had some kind of stroke. We'd better not take any chances. Mrs. Bloom?
Yes, sir.
Get outside to the nearest telephone and call for an ambulance. Tell him it's an emergency case.
You're Mr. Wilmot, aren't you? But what's happened to him?
Ask a dead woman.
I beg your pardon.
Never mind. Hurry.
Of course I'll hurry, Mr. Wilmot.
What are we going to do?
Now, let's have a look around. Templeton seems to have been working at his papers by the light of a couple of candles, which somebody's blown out. We'll relight them. There's the desk. There's all the papers scattered round
Mr.
him.
Wilmot, please. What happened to him?
I'll tell you. As he sat there in the dim light of two candles, a ghostly figure appeared at that French window. It wore a long, old-fashioned skirt and a heavy black veil to hide the face. It walked toward Templeton, tracking graveyard clay. It stretched its arms to him like this.
Keep away from me, please.
Templeton couldn't stand it. He collapsed. And now, before the old housekeeper returns, would you care to hear how the whole trick was worked?
Trick? What trick?
Have you heard about the ghost voice that talked on a disconnected telephone?
Oh, yes. Yes, he said something about it this morning, but I thought he wasn't himself.
He wasn't, but he heard it. Remember Mrs. Bloom's story about the telephone man?
Yes.
They don't send a man round to yank the whole apparatus off the wall, put it on the desk, and say he'll be back for it next day. This man from the telephone company was an imposter.
The man from the telephone company was an imposter?
Exactly.
Oh, look, he's moving his hands. He's trying to open his eyes. Isn't there anything we can do for him?
No, there's nothing we can do till the doctor arrives. In the meantime, listen to me.
All right. What did this imposter do?
He took away the real phone and substituted a spirit telephone. You don't know what a spirit telephone is?
No, of course not.
It's an old device used by fake mediums. You see a telephone without wires standing on a desk, like that one. You pick up the receiver and talk to the dead. Of course, you never really talk into the phone at all.
But if you don't talk into the phone, then...
Fixed underneath the desk is a tiny microphone with hidden wires leading to another room in the same house. That microphone picks up every word you think you are saying to the phone. Is that clear?
I think so.
Now, the dummy telephone is really a low-power radio receiving set. Somebody in another room can talk back to you after hearing what you say on the wired microphone.
Then, Mr. Templeton...
If Templeton hadn't rung Meadowvale 1212, then rest assured that same number would have rung him.
Well, then the scheme couldn't fail either way.
But, you see, there's one thing in this matter I haven't got quite clear even yet.
And what's that?
Tell me, Miss Carroll, just why did you work this whole trick? Why did you try to scare your father to death?
My father.
Templeton is your father, isn't he?
That might be rather difficult to prove, Mr. Wilmot.
By George, I admire you.
Thanks very much. I'm flattered.
Expressionless as ever. Eyes as hard and cold and blue and handsome as... Well, make your own comparison. But I knew you were guilty, of course, when I heard your fiancé was a radio technician.
You can leave Frank out of this.
Oh, you had scruples. Have I touched you?
Nothing can touch me. Not since my mother died.
Your fiancé installed the ghost mechanism and took it away today. He probably thought it was only a joke.
He did. I swear he did.
And the rest of it was plain enough. Who led Templeton to the wrong gate in the cemetery, past that woman's grave? You did. Who was the only one who could have stolen the key to this house off that key ring he took to the office? You were. You needed that key to come and go as you liked and impersonate the two voices on the phone.
Is there any need to go on with this? He killed her, you know.
You mean Templeton killed your mother?
Oh, not with a knife or a bullet or poison. All he did was break her heart. And that's no offense in law.
Yeah, steady now.
Well, I've done what I wanted to do. I've torn his whole rotten life to pieces. And there he is, gasping for breath on the floor. And I'm glad. Oh, God, forgive me. He is my father.
Does he know you're his daughter?
No, of course not. When I went to work for him as a secretary, he hadn't even seen me since I was a child. But I got near him. I worked for years to get near him. No, I wish I hadn't.
Now, look here, you've got to pull yourself together.
Why? Who cares?
There's the ambulance coming and maybe the police.
What do I care? Tell the police what you like.
My dear girl, you don't think I'll tell them anything. I'm merely an onlooker. An amateur Satan who doesn't believe in ghost voices.
Mary Ellen.
What's that?
Templeton, his eyes are open. He's trying to get up.
Mary Ellen.
It's as though he could see something that we can't
What's
see.
that he's got in his hand?
It's a revolver. He had one at the club.
He's putting it against his chest. Oh, stop it!
Look out! Look out!
Oh, he did love her after all. And now he's tried to join her. Oh, don't let him die.
He's all right, Molly. You grabbed the gun just in time.
If he doesn't die, I'll make it up to him. I swear I'll make it up to him.
I tell you now, he's not going to die. But...
Mary Ellen.
What?
Mary Ellen.
But what?
Mary Ellen.
I was just wondering. Is there a ghost in this room tonight?
And so closes The Dead Sleep Lightly, starring Walter Hendon, Susan Hayward, and Lee Bowman. Tonight's tale of Suspense. This is your narrator, the Man in Black, who conveys to you Columbia's invitation to spend this half hour in suspense with us again next Tuesday. Miss Hayward appeared through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, and Mr. Bowman appeared through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios. William Spear, the producer, John Dietz, the director, Bernard Herrmann, the composer-conductor, and John Dixon Carr, the author, collaborated on tonight's Suspense.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Suspense. This is the Man in Black. Here again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Our distinguished star this evening is the stage and screen favorite, Mr. Paul Lucas, whose performance is in The Lady Vanishes, and in the stage production The Watch on the Rhine, you will recall with pleasure. Tonight's tale of suspense is a story by John Dixon Carr, Fire, Burn, and Cauldron Bubble. If you've been with us on these Tuesday nights, you will know that suspense is compounded of mystery and suspicion and dangerous adventure. In this series are tales calculated to intrigue you, to stir your nerves, to offer you a precarious situation and then withhold the solution until the last possible moment. And so with Fireburn and Cauldron Bubble and the performance of Paul Lucas and the other members of our company, we again hope to keep you in. Drury Lane Theatre presents the distinguished American actor Myron Willard in Shakespeare's Macbeth, with magic effects especially designed by Ludwig von Arnheim.
Double toil and trouble, Fireburn and Cauldron Bubble.
Historic Drury Lane Theatre, a relic of old London, omniscient in the cramped and crooked lanes of Aldwych. There has been a playhouse since Nell Gwynn sold oranges in the pit. The present theatre, though modernized, is heavy and darkened with time. By daylight, it is a dinginess of red plush seats, haunted by old ghosts. But at night, when the lights bloom for some new production, when the murmur of a crowd fills the carpeted aisles and the orchestra begins to tune up, it is kindled with that strange magic before the rise of the curtain.
Oh, it's this way, sir. E12 and 13 program. Chocolate?
Thank you.
No, madam. This is Rowie. Your seat's a G4.
And backstage, where nerves crawl and there is a tendency to scream, the three witches of the play are huddled around the peephole in the curtain, looking out into the audience. They are hideous-looking creatures, these witches, in gray rags like cobwebs. But as they speak...
Dear, I am scared.
Don't let it bother you, darling. You can't even see the audience when the floats are on. There's nothing to worry about.
Nothing except the size of the take at the box office.
You won't even have to worry about that tonight. Look out there.
You two are shaking as much as I am. Now, don't pretend.
All right. Everybody's jumpy on first night.
What I can't understand is why they want to use young girls as witches and then make us talk in cracked voices as though we were 80.
Double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble.
Oh, what's that?
Katie, darling, it's only one of the ghost effects. You've been hearing it for weeks at rehearsals. I will say this for Myron Willard, as an actor and a manager, too. He's the first one who's ever had a real professional magician to do the ghost effects for this ham show.
Oh, are they, Celia? Look there.
Where?
Out in the audience in the second upper box on the left-hand side.
Oh.
Don't you see the woman who's just coming in?
Yes, I can see her. Not a bad-looking bit of goods for her age. What about her?
But that's Marcia Blair.
Marcia Blair?
You don't mean you've never heard of her?
I can't say I have either, if it comes to that. Move over, Ivy. Give us a squint.
Marcia Blair used to be Mr. Willard's leading lady. She was a very great actress 15 years ago.
Oh, 15 years ago.
She's had a terribly romantic history, but she's made lots of money and retired from the stage. Then she married some horrible no-good, and... Do you see that tall gray-haired man standing beside her?
Well, he doesn't look much like a no-good.
That's not the man I mean, Celia. That's Howard White, her second husband.
Oh.
They say he loved her for years and followed her about and practically worshipped her. But she was married to this no-good and wouldn't get a divorce.
Then the no-good died, I suppose. So Marcia Blair and her faithful Howard got married.
Yes. I remember reading in the paper that they've been married 1 year tonight. I expect they're very happy.
And I'd be happy, too, if I had a mink coat and a string of pearls like that.
Well, you've got to admit she's beautiful.
All right, Katie, if you say so.
I used to go and see her act when I was a little girl. She was kind of an idol. I wonder what they're saying to each other up in that box now. I wonder what they're saying.
I wish you wouldn't be so uneasy. Nothing can happen to you here.
You're uneasy yourself, Howard.
Yes, I suppose I am a little.
Howard, I know I shouldn't be talking like this on our first anniversary, but that's what worries me. What if Barry isn't dead? What if he isn't dead?
Oh, listen to me, darling. Your late husband, heaven condemn his soul, died in New York more than a year ago. We have proof of that.
Well, then who wrote those letters to me?
I don't know, dear. Somebody playing a joke on you.
Joke? If you marry him, Marcia, you won't be alive a year from then. Joke.
But you're married to me, my dear, and you are alive.
Shall I quote you something from another play, Howard?
Well?
The Ides of March are come. I, Caesar, but not gone. And it's still 2 hours. 2 hours to the time we were actually married.
Oh, look here, dear. This is carrying an obsession too far.
It would be just like Barry to wait until the last moment, just to make it worse. You knew him.
Yes, I knew him.
He was a genius.
I suppose so. As a mere businessman, I've never quite understood this theatrical temperament, except yours, of course.
Barry was a greater actor than Myron Willard will ever be. Barry could play anything, from a Cockney to King Lear. His skill at makeup wasn't merely good. It was terrifying. Oh, Howard, I am frightened. Suppose he's managed to get close to us tonight, and yet we can't see him.
Well, the music started, Marcia. I shall have to go.
Must you go, Howard? Really?
If I break this appointment with Ferndale, dear, the deal will be called off. And since I haven't got too much backing anyway,
All right, dear. I understand. Go ahead.
Unless you wanted to come with me.
And Miss Myron's opening tonight? Oh, I couldn't do that.
I tell you, you'll be perfectly safe here, dear.
Of course, Howard. I know that.
You're in full view of 3,000 people. Nobody could attack you. The only door to this box is guarded. Outside that door will be Miss Fenton, who's devoted to you, and the chauffeur who's even more devoted to you. What could happen, dear?
Nothing, of course. And I'd prefer to be alone anyway.
Yes, I rather guessed that.
Oh, please, dear. It's just that I can't endure anybody being with me when I'm watching a great play. But that doesn't include you, darling.
Then, if you'll accept these, madam, in honor of our first anniversary...
Oh, Howard! Well, they're lovely. Of course I'll accept them.
And here's a program. Got everything else you need?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
I just opened the door to the passage to make sure our watchdogs are on guard. Yes, they're out there, all right. Good night, Marcia. See you in an hour or two.
Good night, Howard. And good luck.
Miss Fenton, Bradley.
Yes, Mr. White.
Yes, sir. Anything wrong?
Miss Fenton, you've been my wife's companion secretary for 5 or 6 years.
Yes, Mr. White, and I've loved every minute of it.
And you, Bradley, you haven't been my chauffeur for quite so long, but they tell me you're an ex-wrestler.
That's right, sir. Champion of the Shoreditch Athletic Club. And in my prime, though I says it as shouldn't, as good a man as ever climbed through the ropes.
Now, you know your instructions, Bradley.
You trust me, sir. Nobody gets into this here box tonight unless it's over my dead body.
Nothing must happen, you understand? Nothing.
Please, you're as white as paper.
As for you, Miss Fenton, I'm afraid it's a little awkward. I know I ought to ask you to go in and join Marcia, but...
Oh, you needn't apologize, Mr. White. I know she doesn't want company. She'll be leaning forward with her elbows on the box rail, just as she always does. She isn't merely watching a play. She's acting, Lady Macbeth. Every line, every gesture. And I don't mean to disturb her.
You won't leave this door, either of you.
You trust me, sir. If... no.
Well, anything wrong, Bradley?
It is a very rummy-looking cove coming along the passage, sir, wearing a big black cloak with a red lining.
Oh, that man, Bradley. That's only Herr von Arnheim. He's a professional magician and escape artist. I was just wondering... Excuse me.
Don't worry, Mr. White. We'll look after her.
Von Arnheim. I say von Arnheim.
Thou canst not say I did it. Never shake the gory locks at me.
I beg your pardon.
And I beg yours, my friend. I was merely quoting a line from the play. You are not leaving the theater. Surely not walking out on Macbeth.
I'm afraid I have got to.
Oh, that's a pity, my friend. You will miss some of my best effects, to say nothing of Shakespeare's. When Banquo's ghost appears at the table.
I don't want to hear any more about ghosts, thanks. Banquo's or anybody else's.
I imagine you mean your wife's late husband.
You've heard about it, then?
Yes, your wife has told me a good deal. She seems to think that in my profession I might have some charm over demons or spell against ghosts.
You know, von Arnheim, in a muddled kind of way, that's what I've been wondering myself.
Unfortunately, no. I am all too human. But your problem interests me. And I confess it worries me.
What is you? What about me?
As I understand it, her first husband was a half-mad American actor who later went completely mad and died in New York. His, what's the word I want?
Obsession?
That's it, obsession. His obsession was Marcia Blair's eyes.
Yes, always her eyes. They seemed to hypnotize him.
It is not new, you know. You'll find the same motive, the eyes of a beautiful woman, all through the works of Edgar Allan Poe. Then, as I understand it, after this man's death, she began to receive a series of letters.
Foul letters.
Apparently written by him, and threatening her with some rather horrible form of death if she married you.
I tell you, Barry Lake is dead. He can't get up out of his coffin.
Oh, getting out of coffins, my friend, is not so difficult. I have done it myself.
Oh, please stop joking, Von Arnheim. You don't happen to be dead.
True. There is that small difference. Is your wife here in the theater tonight?
Yes. She wouldn't have come here except that it's Marion Willard's first night. We haven't seen Marion, either of us, in years. She's back there in box D.
So I hear. I was hoping that you might invite me to share the box.
Look here, old man. I don't want to seem inhospitable, but...
she doesn't want company?
Well, that's about it.
Well, then walk back a little distance with me, this way, so that we can see the stage from the back of the dress circle. Now, the orchestra has stopped, and they'll ring up in a moment. There. Look at it.
Look at what?
The stage, man. The lights have gone out. All except dim yellow footlights shining on the curtain. The last cough, the last murmur, the last rustle of program dies away in one vast, breathing hush. The curtain goes up.
Let go of my arm, Von Arnheim. I've got to leave.
Now, what are the stage directions? Desert place. Thunder and lightning. Enter 3 witches. When, indeed, I wonder.
I beg your pardon, Von Arnheim. Do you speak?
No, it was nothing.
London newspapers for that year 1936, you may read how Myron Willard triumphed at Drury Lane as Macbeth. But tonight, as the clock ticks on, there is another drama in the dimly lighted corridor outside Box D. There sits Miss Louise Fenton, Marcia Blair's companion secretary. Beside her, burly and broken-nosed, is big Jim Bradley, the ex-wrestler. And when more than half an hour has passed...
There's the applause, Jim. That must be the end of the first act.
Yes, I hear it. Nothing's happened. And take my word for it, nothing's going to happen.
Oh, she's such a likable person, Jim. And I think one of our greatest Shakespearean actresses.
Well, I don't much care for this Shakespeare business, miss. You give me a good movie with gangsters in it. It's my style.
Oh, you don't understand, Jim. I've seen her as Juliet, as Rosalind, as Portia, in our own drawing room without any props. I've heard her as Lady Macbeth, too. You should see her eyes.
Her eyes, miss?
Yes, you should see her eyes when she delivers that speech. The raven himself is hoarse that croaks the fatal end.
Hey, miss, look there.
What is it?
That foreign-looking cove in the black cape. Coming along the passage now. Easy.
I beg your pardon. You are Miss Louise Fenton, aren't you?
Yes, my name is Fenton. What is it?
I am looking for Arnheim, a friend of Mr. White's. And I must see Marcia Blair at once.
No, you don't, Governor. You're not going in there.
Why not?
Because nobody goes in there. Not if it was the king himself. That's orders.
Now listen to me, both of you. When the lights went on, I happened to be looking at Box D from the other side of the theater. And I think there is something wrong.
But there can't be anything wrong. Jim Bradley and I have been sitting here the whole time. Except, of course...
Except when?
Well, except when I went in there for a few seconds.
You went in there, Miss Fenton? May I ask when that was?
Well, it was after Mr. White had gone and just before the play started. I went in to ask if she wanted anything. She said she didn't, so I came out again. And Bradley's been with me all the time, except when he went to get a drink of water up the corridor.
That's as true as gospel, Captain.
One moment, and listen to me. Marcia Blair is leaning forward across the railing of the box.
Oh, but that's nothing, Herr von Arnheim. That's the way she always is.
Does she always fall forward with her arms held straight out and her head down on her arms?
You better be careful, miss. It's a trick.
Trick? Why not open the door and see for yourselves? Would that do any harm?
No, I suppose it wouldn't, but... Oh, there must be some mistake. We haven't heard a sound from in there. There couldn't be anything wrong.
You open the door, Miss Fenton. I'm going to hold tight to this gentleman, just in case.
Quiet, please. Quiet.
What is it, miss?
Oh.
Walk in there with me, both of you. Please go carefully, as though nothing were wrong. We don't want to attract attention. Now.
Oh, Herr von Arnheim. There's blood all over her face.
Yes. And don't begin screaming again, Miss Fenton, when I tell you she's dead. Bradley?
Yes, sir?
Pick Miss Blair's body up and carry her out into the corridor. In another minute, we'll have the whole theater wanting to know what's wrong.
All right, sir. You win. But what about the people in the other boxes? Won't they see?
They've gone down to the bar to get a drink. They won't see anything. Hurry.
She ain't no lightweight, the poor lady ain't. Steady does it. Hold the door open. That's got it. Now, close the door. Shall I put her down on the floor, Governor?
Yes, better do that.
I never took those threats seriously. That's what I blame myself for. And if something did happen, well, I thought he'd attack her. I never thought he'd hide away across the theater and fire a shot.
And you were quite right, Miss Fenton. Marcia Blair was not shot.
She wasn't shot.
No, take a look at the wound.
Oh, I can't look at it.
She was stabbed. Stabbed through the right eye with a narrow, sharp blade, which entered her brain and killed her instantly. Not a pretty death, but a quick one.
You seem to know a lot about this, Governor.
Perhaps I do, my friend, and perhaps I can guess a lot more.
You mean somebody stood out there and threw a knife at her? Like a ready music hall turn?
No, I don't mean that either. There's no knife in the wound and none in the box. The murderer took it away.
Took it away?
Exactly.
Herr von Arnheim, please wait. You're not saying someone climbed up from outside, 20 or 30 feet from the floor, and stabbed poor Marcia in full sight of 3,000 people?
That, Miss Fenton, is what the evidence seems to indicate.
But it's impossible.
Yet it happened. There is Marcia Blair's body.
What's that?
Oh, it's the warning bell for the second act. People will be coming back here any minute. What are we going to do?
Acclaim, triumph. Myron Willard as Macbeth. Helen Gale as Lady Macbeth. Magical effects by Ludwig van Arnheim. Very few persons knew that there is a dead woman in the theater. But at the end of the play, it is a different story. Crowd files out, past a cordon of police. The lights are extinguished. The great theater is dark and mumbling with echoes. See the stage now. Only the battens or overhead lights pour down a pale blaze on two men who stand grotesquely against the background of Dunsinane Castle. One of these men is Howard White, very near collapse. The other is Myron Willard himself, still wearing his makeup, still wearing helmet and chain mail. And when Willard speaks...
Howard! Howard White! Confounded man, can't you hear what I'm saying?
Excuse me, madam. This is almost finished.
Well, not that I'm blaming you, old man.
Thank you, madam.
It's traditional, you know, that Macbeth's an unlucky play. But up to the very end, I thought I'd never done better. 11 curtain calls. No, 12. How did you like my tomorrow and tomorrow speech?
I'm sorry, madam. I'm afraid I didn't hear it.
Yes, poor old Marcia. She'd have hated to die like that. Marcia was proud of her eyes. Always nearsighted as an owl, but too vain to wear glasses. There's Von Arnheim looking at us from under the castle archway. Von Arnheim! Did you call me, my friend? You're rather difficult to recognize under all that Macbeth makeup.
Yes, I was just thinking the same thing.
Never mind that. Where are the police now?
At the moment, Mr. Willard, the police are in your dressing room. They are using it for questioning.
No reception tonight, of course.
No, but I thought you might be interested in 2 items of information that police have just discovered.
Well, go on.
We had a fairly full house tonight, I believe.
Fairly full. Every seat was reserved.
Reserved, yes, but not occupied.
I don't follow you.
1 box on the ground floor, box E to be exact, was empty. Reserved and paid for, but empty. And box E, oddly enough, was just underneath the one occupied by Marcia Blair.
Well, all the same, I still don't see quite what you're...
Now, our next item of information comes from an usher. An outside aisle seat in the stores, very close to that empty box, was occupied by a very curious stranger who arrived late in the dark and slipped out again by a nearby exit a few minutes afterwards.
Just 1 moment, Von Arnheim. Are you saying the stranger climbed up and attacked Marcia in full view of the audience?
No, my friend. The murderer did not approach from that direction.
Then he must have reached Marcia through the door guarded by Bed and Miss Fenton?
No, not from that direction either.
Confound it, man. It must have been one way or the other.
Not necessarily.
Now, tell me, Howard, don't you think I've got enough troubles already without this nightmare on top of it?
Herr von Arnheim. Herr von Arnheim.
You must take it easy, Miss Fenton. You must not excite yourself. Have the police
Yes.
been...
Look, you've got to help me. They won't believe me.
They won't believe the young lady, sir, and that's a fact. I've tried to help her all I can, but there's things I can swear to and things I can't.
You see, I did go into that box. Oh, just for a couple of seconds, I admit it. But no other person went in or could have got in. So they say, or at least they're hinting that I killed her. But I swear I never touched her.
Who was questioning you, Miss Fenton? Inspector Grimes or Sergeant Blake?
I'm not sure. The sergeant, I think.
Then I shouldn't worry if I were you. Inspector Grimes knows better. He's guessed, in fact, exactly what I have guessed.
You seem on rather familiar terms with the police, my friend.
I am, Mr. Willard. I am. Anyone who practices escapes from handcuffs, sacks, chests...
And stage boxes, perhaps.
Stage boxes, if you insist. Excuse me. Isn't it Inspector Grimes in the wings now?
Yes, and he's nodding his head.
Then I can tell you, I think, what you want to know.
Well, if you do happen to know anything, it's your duty to speak up. Poor Marcia seems to have had some ridiculous idea that her former husband, Barry Lake, was still alive. Her fears weren't justified, of course, and she wasn't killed by any dead husband.
I beg your pardon. Her fears were justified, though not quite in the way she believed. And she was killed by her husband.
Then Barry Lake is still alive.
No, Barry Lake is dead.
What? You don't mean Marcia was really killed by a ghost?
No. I mean she was killed by her devoted second husband, Mr. Howard White.
You don't hear what they say? That's not true. It's a slanderous statement. I'll have you in court for it. Everybody knows how devoted I was to Marcia.
Your devotion, my friend, was devotion to her money. And your business affairs have been shaky for a long time.
That's not true, and you can't prove it.
Marcia Blair was inclined to be, shall we say, a little close-fisted with money.
That's true anyway.
It's a lie.
Willing to marry him, but Mr. Howard White knew he'd never touch a penny unless he killed her. He wrote the letters himself.
Herr von Arnheim, he can't be guilty. She was alive after he left the box. He wasn't anywhere near her when she died.
Perfectly correct, Miss Fenton.
He wasn't there, and yet he killed her.
Exactly. But you and Bradley can supply the clue that will hang him.
Me, sir? I don't know nothing.
No, I don't either.
I think you do if you'll put your mind to it. Do you remember what Howard White said to her just before he left the box?
Yes, he said, "Good night, Marcia. See you in an hour or two." And she answered, "Good night and good luck."
No, I mean just before that.
What? There wasn't anything.
You see? It's a slanderous statement without any proof. It's an insult to my position on the stock exchange.
Wait. I do remember something rather queer.
Think, Miss Fenton, think.
He said to Marcia jokingly, "If you'll accept these, madam, in honor of our first anniversary." And Marcia said, "Howard, they're lovely. Of course I'll accept them."
That's right, sir. He did say it.
And what do you think he was referring to, Miss Fenton? What was he asking her to accept?
Well, I imagined it was flowers, a corsage or something like that.
Did you see any flowers in the box or pinned to Marcia Blair's gown?
No. Come to think of it, I didn't.
Then what did he give her?
Don't look at me, sir.
Now, here is a woman who is very nearsighted, yet refuses to wear glasses. But she can accept a pair of...
Opera glasses.
It's a lie. You can't prove it.
Hold on, sir.
Go.
You better stay here, Governor.
Thank you, Bradley, but the place is surrounded with police.
But I still don't understand.
Now, what happens when you lift opera glasses to your eyes and they are not in focus? You turn the little wheel in the middle to bring them into focus. For Marcia Blair, it was deadly.
You mean that the glasses had...
Yes, they were specially constructed glasses, Miss Fenton. They were invented by a French criminal years ago. That little wheel is a little trigger. It releases the spring of a sharp, thin blade which strikes through the eyes into the brain.
Oh, don't, please.
You can't prove it.
Marcia Blair died instantly. The glasses torn from her eye by their own weight dropped over the box rail to the carpeted aisle below. The only witnesses who might have noticed would have been the people in the box just underneath.
And that box was empty.
By arrangement, yes. Even if anybody did see them fall, Howard White was prepared to remove the evidence instantly. You haven't forgotten the curious stranger.
Curious stranger?
I mean the man who slipped in after it was dark, took an aisle seat just under the box, and slipped out again a few minutes later.
It's a pack of lies from start to finish. You can't prove a word of it.
I beg your pardon, my friend. Didn't you see Inspector Grimes not to me a moment ago?
Well...
You are going to hang, my friend, for one of the neatest and cruelest crimes in my experience. The police have just found those opera glasses with a neat set of fingerprints in the side pocket of your motor car.
And so ends Fire Burn and Cauldron Bubble, starring the distinguished actor Paul Lucas. Tonight's tale of suspense. This is your narrator, Ted Osborne, the man in black, who conveys to you Columbia's invitation to spend this half hour in suspense with us again next Tuesday. Same time, when Nancy Coleman stars in Fear Paints a Picture. William Spear, the producer, John Dietz, the director, Bernard Herrmann, the composer-conductor, Robert Salmon, studio technician, and John Dixon Carr, the author, collaborated on tonight's Suspense.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Our leading lady tonight is Miss Nancy Coleman, one of Hollywood's most powerful and resourceful young stars, whose performances you may have admired in King's Row, the current Warner Brothers picture Edge of Darkness, and other noted films. The story called Fear Paints a Picture is tonight's tale of suspense. If you've been with us on these Tuesday nights, you will know that suspense is compounded of mystery and suspicion and dangerous adventure. In this series are tales calculated to intrigue you, stir your nerves, to offer you a precarious situation, and then withhold the solution until the last possible moment. And so it is with Fear Paints a Picture and Miss Nancy Coleman's performance, we again hope to keep you in Suspense. There is a picture hanging on a wall. You look at it casually. An extraordinary picture, you will say, skillfully done. Look at those fine brushstrokes, those superb colors. But isn't the subject matter a little bizarre? It is something more than just bizarre. But let us begin from the beginning with the death of Benjamin Powell, a rich and strange man. There were dark rumors about the Powells. His wife had died many years ago. No one knows how. But Benjamin Powell had a daughter, Julia, a high-strung and neurotic girl. And many of us wondered about her, too. Benjamin Powell died, and in his last will and testament he made Julia heir to all his considerable fortune, except that... But let me read you the will. I, Benjamin Powell, being of sound mind and in full possession of all my faculties, hereby request that after my death, my daughter Julia live with Mr. Harvey Lyons, my lifelong friend, until her 23rd birthday, at which date all my worldly belongings will come into her possession, provided that nothing untoward happens to her by that time. But in the event that she is incapable of taking over my estate upon her 23rd birthday, I hereby appoint Harvey and Laura Lyons as my final heirs, there being no other living blood relatives, and trust to their judgment that they will take care of Julia adequately and with kindness. Signed, Benjamin Powell. 3 months later, seated around the huge, ornate fireplace of the dark wainscoted living room, are 3 silent people. The heavy drapes that run from the high ceiling to the floor move softly in a gust of wind. For the past quarter hour, no one has spoken. Harvey reads his newspaper, Laura knits with nimble fingers, and Julia stares with unseeing eyes at an unopened book.
You're not reading, Julia.
I'm not concentrating.
Are you feeling all right?
I'm all right.
You do look a little tired, Julia. Perhaps you'd better get some rest.
I'm not tired, Harvey. I've been wanting to ask you.
In a week, Julia will be 23. Isn't that wonderful, Harvey? Next Tuesday's her birthday.
We'll have a party. I'll get old Tom and his fiddle, and we'll have a real old-fashioned party.
Harvey, what did Father mean by the will?
The will?
Julia, perhaps you better go to bed. You look a little pale.
The will said I might not be able to take over the estate by my 23rd birthday. What does it mean?
I don't remember that. I didn't read the will very carefully.
Yes, you did, Harvey. You know what I'm talking about.
Perhaps we better discuss it in the morning. You're tired.
I'm not tired, Laura.
Please, Julia, I'd rather you wouldn't ask me.
That's a delicate handkerchief, Julia. Twisting it will only tear the lace.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize it.
It's one of your best handkerchiefs.
It's no use, Laura. I've got to know.
You're a very high-strung girl, Julia. And I'd rather not upset you before bedtime.
Upset me?
You sort of get moody very often, Julia.
Harvey.
Laura, I'm not going to bed until I find out what all this means. I've got to find out.
You don't like your room, do you?
No, I don't. It's too big. The wallpaper. I don't like the pictures on the wall.
There's nothing wrong with a big room. Everyone prefers a large room. Everyone likes pictures on the wall.
Well, maybe it's the kind of pictures. Yes, it's the pictures. They rub me the wrong way.
You see, your feelings about things are different. Different from the feelings of normal people.
Normal people?
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't.
I can't stand this torturous way of telling her. I'll tell you, Julia. Your mother died in an asylum. She went mad after her 23rd year. It's been in the family for generations.
I never saw my mother. I thought...
We didn't want to tell you this. I wish we hadn't, but you forced us.
You mean I'm liable to become insane?
Well, you see, any one of us can become insane.
There's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfectly all right. I'm as sane as anyone. Being high-strung doesn't make me mad. I don't like it here. I don't like this house. I'm sane. I'm sane.
Of course you are, Julia. There's nothing the matter with you. You'll be all right. Your father wasn't sure, that's all. You're as sane as any of us.
Come along. I'll take you to your room. We'll have a cup of tea together.
How is she, Laura?
She's calmed down.
Is she asleep?
No, Harvey, she's reading.
Well, that must be Dr. Barrows. I'll open the door. Hello, Dr. Barrow.
How do you do, Mr. Lyon?
Come in, come in.
Thank you.
This is my wife, Laura.
How do you do?
I'm glad to meet you, Doctor.
Let me take your things. The maid will have your room ready in a few minutes.
That's very good of you.
Here, sit down and make yourself comfortable.
Thank you. Well, how's Julia?
She's been very moody lately. Very moody.
She seems so unhappy. I've tried to draw her out, but I haven't been much good at it.
Is she still grieving over her father's death?
No, it isn't that. I don't think she likes our house. She has some queer ideas about her room.
And the wallpaper. She doesn't like that. She doesn't like the pictures on the wall either.
I've caught Julia several times staring into the mirror, looking at herself with hate.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard her talking to herself very often.
That's nothing. All of us talk to ourselves once in a while.
I don't know, Doctor. I don't think she's very stable. There are things that go on in her mind that she won't talk about.
All of us keep things to ourselves, things we never talk about. Mr. Powell described Julia's case to me just before he died. I've had occasion to observe her just once.
Oh, you knew Mr. Powell, did you?
Oh, yes, for quite a number of years. I treated his wife.
Poor Mrs. Powell. She went mad. Started somewhat the same way as Julia.
Oh, I wouldn't make that comparison. So far, there's no basis for any such theory.
Well, then, let's say that Julia has strong dislikes. Took a hate to the pictures in her room.
Pictures, eh? I'd like to go up and see her, if she's not asleep.
Well, I guess it's all right. She's not asleep yet. Her room's the second from the right as you reach the top of the stairs.
Thank you. I'll just stop in for a few minutes.
Come in.
Hello, Julia. You remember me, don't you?
No, not exactly.
I'm Dr. Barrow, a friend of your father. I treated your mother.
My mother?
No, don't be alarmed. I'm staying with your guardians for a few weeks. Do you mind if I come in for a few minutes?
No.
Well, this is a fine room, Julia. A very comfortable one.
I don't like it. It's too big, makes me uncomfortable.
Nonsense. You're just imaginative. You think someone might be hiding in here while you're asleep. Is that it?
It isn't that.
Don't you like that picture, Julia?
What picture?
The one you're staring at.
I wasn't staring at it. I don't...
Just looking at it, eh? Looks like a fine painting.
I don't like it. I'm going to have it removed.
You can if you like, Julia, but I don't think you should.
It's an unpleasant picture. It gives me nightmares. Look at it. That frightful-looking man about to come through the doorway, and the unsuspecting girl sitting in a chair with her back towards him.
He's not frightful-looking at all. It's just the black scarf around his neck.
He's about to kill her.
You certainly have a vivid imagination. I'm sure the artist had no such idea in mind.
I hate the picture. I'm going to ask Harvey to take it out of here.
No, Julia. You mustn't be afraid of it. The longer you keep looking at it, the less afraid of it you'll be. You've got to conquer your fears, or they'll conquer you.
That picture has a horrible fascination for me. I can't take my eyes from it. Last night, I dreamed that the man in the picture came through the door with a knife in his hand and killed a girl. It was an awful dream.
But that was only a dream. If I take that painting off the wall, you'll find other things to be afraid of. Now, you do as I say. Forget about that picture. Get a good night's sleep. Nothing like a good night's sleep to lift your spirits. If that picture fascinates you, keep looking at it. Don't be afraid of it. Will you do that?
Yes, Dr. Barrow, if you say so.
That's fine. I'll see you in the morning. Good night, Julia.
Good night.
In this big rambling house of Harvey Lyons, midnight came and went. One by one the lights went out, and soon the whole house was blackened by the cover of night. Not a single light gleamed from any window, not a single sound. The ominous rumble of an approaching thunderstorm. In Julia's room, the large room with its many pictures, she was dreaming dreaming again of the man in the picture. The figure with the flowing black scarf is alive, and his hands grow longer and longer. Julia tosses in her sleep, as if trying to avoid him, trying not to look at him.
Oh. Who's there? Oh. It was only thunder. What a terrible dream. That awful picture. What was that? There's someone in this room. Someone's hiding in this room. The light. Where's the switch? Where is it? Oh, here. There's no one here. It's coming from the ceiling. From up above me. It's my imagination. There's nobody there at this hour. Nobody. I've got to go back to sleep. Dr. Barrow said I need sleep.
Julia, what happened?
What are you doing out here in the hallway?
Pull yourself together, Julia.
That man.
What man?
The man in the picture. He's moved.
What do you mean?
The picture. The man at the door. He's not at the door. He's inside the room.
You must have been dreaming.
Of course, dear. It was only a dream.
I heard a scream and Julia, what's happened to you? She says she saw a man in one of the paintings move. Oh, I see.
He did move. I saw it. He's not outside the door anymore. He's inside.
You dreamed that, Julia. That's what I said.
It wasn't a dream. Thunder wakened me. I woke up and heard footsteps coming from the ceiling. I thought it was my imagination, and then I looked at the picture. The picture I told you I didn't like, Doctor. The man was inside the room.
That's hardly possible, Julia. Figures and pictures can't move.
Of course not. It was just a bad dream.
No, it's true. I saw it.
Come along, Julia. We'll all take a look at the picture.
No, I don't want to go back into the room.
No. There's nothing to be afraid of. Come on, Julia. Don't be frightened. You've got to fight off these delusions.
Here, give me your hand. Come along.
Well, now, what picture was it? The one near the bed. Oh, yes, the picture by Gregory.
It's one of our oldest paintings.
Well, there it is. It's the same as I saw it a few hours ago. Look at it, Julia.
I can't believe it.
The man with the black scarf is still outside the door. And he'll stay there until that picture crumbles to dust.
I could have sworn I saw him inside the room approaching the girl.
Dreams can be very vivid. And there are no footsteps coming from the storeroom.
I must be out of my mind. I could have sworn.
It's nothing at all, Julia. All of us occasionally have vivid, realistic dreams. Once I dreamed I was being chased by a herd of elephants. It was so real I heard the thundering footsteps even after I woke up. It was so...
Delusions can be very real and horrifying. You do believe, don't you, Julia, that it was only a nightmare?
Yes, I think so.
If Julia wants to, I'll take the picture out of her room.
I don't think it's wise. You have to fight these unreasonable fears. That's true, Julia. Never give in to them.
Well, I'll go crazy if I keep looking at that picture.
It might be the other way around, Julia. If you run away from it, the mental disease prevalent in your family will take firm hold in you. You'll get worse and worse, as Dr. Barrow says, until you'll be afraid of your own shadow. You'll be afraid of everything, of everyone you meet. Afraid to be alone, afraid to be with people, afraid of yourself, afraid of your own clutching fingers.
No, don't tell me anymore.
Please, Mr. Lyons, there's no need for this kind of talk. Julia, look at the picture. It's nothing but some paint on a canvas with a frame around it. There's nothing about it that can harm you. And the danger lies in yourself. You've got to keep staring at it as often as you can by candlelight or in the dark until you've learned to laugh at it. It won't be easy.
I'll try.
That's fine. I knew you had courage.
Get your sedative so that you'll be able to sleep.
I'll be all right in the morning. I'm sorry I became hysterical.
And I'm sure you won't let yourself go anymore.
I promise.
You're sure you're not afraid now?
No, I'll be all right. I'm sure I'll be all right.
Well, Julia, it's 11 o'clock. You know what Dr. Barrow says.
I'm not at all sleepy, Laura. I'd rather stay up for a while. I'm in the middle of a fascinating story. You run along. I'll go to bed presently.
Is anything wrong, Julia?
No, of course not. Everything's fine, Laura.
You're afraid to go to sleep, aren't you, Julia?
No, it isn't that.
Is that picture bothering you again?
Yes. Last night I heard footsteps again. Sound woke me, and the figure in the picture, it moved. It moved closer to the girl.
Oh, how terrible. Why didn't you call me? We thought you were over it. It hasn't bothered you these past 3 nights.
Oh, I didn't want anyone to know. I took some sleeping tablets, and I fell asleep again. In the morning, the picture was the same as ever.
That's a brave girl.
Laura, do you think I'm crazy?
Of course not. You're as sane as I am.
Tell me the truth. I must know.
You're just nervous and high-strung, and you have a vivid imagination, that's all.
You're trying to soothe me.
Why didn't you tell the doctor that you thought the picture moved?
I was ashamed.
You shouldn't be ashamed. Dr. Barrow is here to help you get well.
I don't think you are.
Oh, that must be Harvey and Dr. Barrow now.
Hello, Laura. I've arranged to have old Tom at his fiddle here tomorrow night for Julia's birthday, and I've invited the Grovers. They'll be delighted to come. That is, if Julia's feeling well.
Julia, you should be in bed. It's after 11.
She's afraid to go to sleep.
Please, Laura.
It's the footsteps in the picture again, isn't it?
Yes, Doctor, it moved again. At least I thought it moved, but I went back to sleep.
Well, that's an improvement. At least you didn't get hysterical and try to run away like the last time.
You were all right for a few nights.
It's come back.
There isn't much I can do for you, Julia, except to tell you to go to sleep. Fight off these delusions. You've got to do that.
Come, Julia, I'll go with you to your room.
Well, perhaps you can sleep in my room tonight, Laura. Just tonight. I'll feel a lot more comfortable tomorrow night. I'll be able to face it alone much better.
No, Julia, that would be an admission of defeat.
All right, if you think it's best. Good night.
Good night, Julia.
Well, keep up your courage. It doesn't look so good, does it, Doctor?
Well, not too good, but it's not hopeless. She has an unstable mind, subject to delusions, which become very real to her. Her obsession about the picture's not so bad. We all suffer occasionally from optical illusions. But hearing footsteps coming from the storeroom above her...
Storeroom? How did you know there's a storeroom above her?
Your wife told me.
Oh, of course. Well, that storeroom hasn't been opened in years. I guess there's no point in investigating it, is there?
I don't think so. Those footsteps, like the moving figure in the painting, are all in her mind.
Her mother behaved just like that before she went mad, didn't she?
Well, there's some similarity. You haven't been to the storeroom recently, have you?
No, I just mentioned to you that it hasn't been opened in years.
Oh, yes, so you did. Forgive me for not listening more closely.
That's perfectly all right, Doctor. Well, I just hope that Julia will be well for her birthday party tomorrow.
Oh, I had no idea she was having a birthday. How old will Julia be?
She'll be 23.
Well, I must remember to get her a gift. Oh. Well, I guess I'll go to bed.
So will I. I'll see you in the morning.
But Julia wasn't thinking about her birthday. During the 10 or 15 minutes she spent in Laura's room, fear fluttered in her heart. When she finally stood alone inside her own room, panic, black, unreasoning panic began to take hold of her. In wild haste, she began to undress, never looking at the picture.
I won't look at it. I won't. I'll go right to sleep. I'll take some pills and fall asleep. What was that? Oh. It was nothing. Nothing at all. All I have to do is keep from looking at the picture. I won't look at it. It can't do me any harm if I don't see it. I mustn't even think of it. I'll think about the trip I made to South America. It was a wonderful trip. The sunset. What was that? Footsteps. Those footsteps again. I mustn't hear it. I mustn't hear it. It was a wonderful trip. The Blue Caribbean. Rio's a beautiful city. Sugarloaf Mountain, the music, the dancing. Those footsteps. It's not footsteps. It's just my heart beating. I'll close my eyes. I'll sleep. Sleep. Why can't I sleep? Oh, Lord, let me sleep.
I don't want to look at the picture. It won't. I know what I'll see. He'll be closer to her. Maybe he'll have killed her. I mustn't open my eyes. I mustn't. I won't. I've got to look at it. He's moved. He's close to the girl. I'm not dreaming. It's real. Girl? It's me. That girl is me. Me. I can't stand it. I can't. Laura! Laura! Oh, Laura, let me in. Let me in.
Julia. Oh, you poor girl. Here, sit down. Now stop crying and tell me all about it. Tell me in detail. Don't be ashamed. Get it out of you. It'll do you good to talk.
It's the same thing again and again. I tried not to look at the picture. I tried so very hard, but it was hopeless. I had to. The figure with the black scarf was inside the room. A knife in his hand, very close to the girl. But this time the girl had turned around and it was my face. My face.
Did you hear any footsteps?
Yes. I heard them as soon as I got into the room.
You think it's very real, don't you, Julia? Despite the fact that everyone says it's a delusion.
It's very real to me. I must be really insane. I'm going crazy.
Don't say that.
It's no use. I'm not getting any better. It's getting worse and worse.
Don't give up. You mustn't. Come along. I'll go to your room with you. I'll stay there until you fall asleep. Unless you want to stay here.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Will you stay with me, Laura?
Yes, Julia. Come, let's go back. Well, the picture doesn't seem to...
What's the matter, Laura?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
There. Did you hear it? Footsteps?
It was probably a board creaking. Now you go to sleep. I think everything will be all right in the morning.
You won't leave me?
No, Julia. I'll be here.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much.
Laura stayed in Julia's room until she was sure that she was fast asleep. Then carefully she tiptoed out of the room, closing the door gently behind her. Julia slept peacefully, feeling safe and secure. Several hours passed, and then suddenly Julia awoke. She sat bolt upright and wide awake with her heart pounding away.
Laura. Laura, is that you? Laura! Oh, she's gone. She's left me alone. But I'm not alone. Something woke me. The picture. It's the picture. I must look at it again. If he's moved again, I don't know what I'll do. I'll turn around and look straight at it. I'll look straight at it. Oh. He's killed the girl. He stabbed her. He stabbed me. I'm the girl. Oh, I've got to get out. It's no use. I've lost everything. My reason, my sanity. I can't fight him anymore. I can't fight against you and the black scarf. And now you're here. I can touch you. I can feel you. It's real this time. What do you want me to do? No. I won't run away. I won't scream. Do I want to spend the rest of my life in an asylum like my mother? No, I don't. I don't. You're pointing at the window. You want me to open the window? Yes. I'll open it. You say it will be best for everybody if I jump. Yes. The only way out. The only way. I'll do it. I'll do it now without thinking. It will only take a moment.
Julia!
Hurry,
Stop.
Laura.
We came just in time. I've got her out. Is she safe? I'm safe.
You can come out from behind that chair, my friend.
Friend?
Come out or I'll shoot.
I don't understand. My head's going around in a circle.
I can explain everything. I was merely
Dr.
observing Julia.
Barrow.
The procedure was a little unusual. I'll do the explaining, Dr. Barrow. You tried to drive Julia crazy.
Tried to drive me crazy. That's right. He tried to do it with the picture.
You're all making a serious mistake. Mistake? Look at the picture. The figure is inside the room stabbing the girl. No, it wasn't your imagination, Julia. He painted several pictures, each one of them with the figure close to the girl. He used the storeroom upstairs. That's why you heard footsteps.
I got suspicious when I found a black scarf in his room. And when I looked at the picture a little while ago, it was full of dust. I dusted it off myself a few hours before.
Yes, and Dr. Barrow seemed to know there was a storeroom above you. I couldn't understand how he knew that since it had been closed for years.
But why? Why should he want to drive me crazy?
Because he's not Dr. Barrow. He's Ralph Powell, your cousin, who disappeared many years ago. Everyone thought he was dead.
After I got suspicious, Harvey and I went up to the storeroom and found a lot of pictures he's been painting.
This scoundrel is a very talented artist. He's been changing the pictures on the wall. His plan was to drive you insane and then contest the will, since he's your nearest blood relative.
Oh, horrible, and I really thought it...
I had no intention of killing Julia. I swear I didn't. I just wanted to frighten her.
Almost jumped out of the window. I might have been dead. Right now, lying dead outside. Don't think about it, Julia. It's all over now. You're all right. I'm not insane. Of course not, Julia. Why, I almost forgot. It's already Tuesday. Happy birthday, Julia. How does it feel to be 23 years old? It feels wonderful.
And so closes Fear Paints a Picture, starring Nancy Coleman. Tonight's tale of Suspense. Appearing with Miss Coleman were Edwin Maxwell as Harvey Lyons, Fred Mackay as Dr. Barrow, and Beatrice Benaderet as Laura. This is your narrator, the Man in Black, who conveys to you Columbia's invitation to spend this half hour in suspense with us again next Tuesday, when our star will be Mr. Peter Lorre in the suspense play called The Moment of Darkness. William Spear, the producer, Ted Bliss, the director, Lucien Marowick, the composer, Lad Gluskin, the musical director, and Sigmund Miller, the author, collaborated on tonight's Suspense.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
I always promised to call her up. She said she'd come back to me if I did.
You couldn't call her up now, Mr. Templeton, even if you wanted to.
No, I suppose not. But I was fond of her. I wish there was something I could do.
Well, you could have her grave cared for. Have some flowers put on it.
That's it. That's an idea. She'd have liked that. Can you take care of that for me?
I'll look after it tomorrow morning, Mr. Templeton.
But how will they ever be able to locate the grave? There must be thousands in this cemetery.
Well, each grave has a number, you know, cut into the stone so you can identify it. This is number 1212.
1212. Sounds like a telephone number, doesn't it?
Yes, doesn't it?
Meadowvale 1212. Poor girl. I was fond of her.
Please, Mr. Templeton, come along and please, no more brandy. You've got a funeral to attend.
And then, Wilmot, the night came. And the horror.
What horror? Take it easy, man. There's nothing to worry about. You were sitting here in the Cosmopolites Club.
Yes, but I wasn't sitting in the club last night. I was on my way home.
And why should that scare you?
I don't know, but it did. I'd been jumpy all day. That infernal number kept running through my head. Meadowvale 1212. Have you ever seen my house?
Yes, it's that big sham Gothic place on Riverside Drive, isn't it?
Yes, big and dark and drafty like a mausoleum. I told you it was moving house to an apartment downtown. But there were some papers there. I had to get out of the safe in the library to take with me to Washington tomorrow. I knew the servants would be gone, of course. But I hope Mrs. Bloom, that's my housekeeper, would still be there. Then I went up the park about 6:30.
Meadowvale, 1, 2, 1, 2. Meadowvale, 1, 2, 1, 2. Meadowvale, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Our stars this evening are three. In the order of their appearance, they are Walter Hampton, one of the theater's proudest names for 2 generations, and Susan Hayward and Lee Bowman, 2 of Hollywood's brightest younger stars. The story called The Dead Sleep Lightly by John Dixon Carr is tonight's tale of suspense. If you've been with us on these Tuesday nights, you will know that suspense is compounded of mystery and suspicion and dangerous adventure. In this series are tales calculated to intrigue you, to stir your nerves, to offer you a precarious situation, and then withhold the solution until the last possible moment. And so with The Dead Sleep Lightly, and with the performances of Walter Hampden, Susan Hayward, and Lee Bowman, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
Ashes to ashes and dust to dust.
Meadowvale Cemetery, not far from New York. Meadowvale Cemetery, on a dim gray morning in early April, when rain forms a mist across leafless trees and white gravestones. You see, over there, the group of silk-hatted gentlemen, each with his protecting umbrella, gathered around an open grave. You see the clay soil freshly dug. You can hear perhaps the creaking of support as the coffin is lowered into its everlasting house. And the droning voice of the churchman.
I am the resurrection and the life, says the Lord. He that believeth on me, though he were dead, yet shall he live.
Live? Quiet, Mr. Templeton, please.
What's wrong with old Templeton?
Please, sir, remember where you are.
She's not alive, I tell you. She's not alive.
It might seem a long distance, that, from the Cosmopolites Club in Gramercy Park on the following evening, when that same well-fed man, as hard and unemotional as the diamond pin in his tie, hurries up the steps into the club and...
What? Yes, Mr. Templeton? Tell me, Mr. Wilmot in the club, do you know?
Yes, sir. Don't you see him?
See him? Where?
In the lounge over there, sir. Sitting by the fire.
Yes, of course. I'm a little upset. You're a good fellow, Henry. I won't forget you.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me, sir, but aren't you going to take off your hat and overcoat?
Never mind my hat and coat. Just tell me one other thing. When I came into the club, was there anybody following me?
Following you, Miss Templeton?
Yes, a woman. A woman with a long skirt and a heavy black veil.
There aren't many women who wear that kind of dress nowadays, sir.
Look out into the street. You see anybody?
No, sir. There's just...
What's that?
Oh, that's only the old street musician, sir. He doesn't mean any harm.
I won't have that tune played, you hear? I'm used to getting my orders obeyed, and I'm going to have this one obeyed. Here's some money. Go out and tell him to go away.
Yes, sir, if you insist, but...
Do as you're told and don't ask questions. If anybody wants me, I shall be with Mr. Wilmot.
Very good, sir.
Good evening, Wilmot. Mind if I sit down for a minute?
Not at all. Pull up a chair. Want some coffee?
No, thanks. I'll get down to brass tacks right away.
Yes, you always do. I've noticed that.
Well, I'm a pretty self-sufficient kind of a fellow, Wilmot. I made a name for myself, even if I do stay it myself. But, well, the fact is, I need advice.
A successful publisher asking advice from one of his own authors. That's something new, isn't it?
Now, look here, Wilmot, I'm serious.
All right. I take it back. What's on your mind?
Well, you've studied what we'll call the supernatural, haven't you?
I've lectured and written books about it, yes.
And did you ever meet a ghost?
No, I can't say I ever did. Have you?
It might only be my own imagination. Yes, that's what scares me. You get on in years, and your arteries harden, and you don't take enough exercise, and you think something ought to be done about your waistline, but you never bother. You see, Wilmot, I went to a funeral yesterday.
You did? Whose funeral was it?
The person who died has nothing to do with this. It was old Simpson of Holly and Sons. We thought it was only decent to make up a party and go to the funeral. And I took my secretary along, a girl named Molly Carroll. I'm leaving for Washington tomorrow. Besides, I'm moving house. So there was a lot of work to do. What I couldn't stand was that infernal cemetery in the rain. And we must have gone in by the wrong gate, because we were in a neglected, desolate part of the cemetery where the rank grass grew over the grave. You'll oblige me, Miss Carroll, if you first find out the proper directions about places. You've come in the wrong gate to the cemetery.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Templeton. I thought
What you thought doesn't matter now. This is the wrong part of the cemetery. My shoes are absolutely ruined with wet clay.
Well, it isn't doing my own shoes and stockings any good either, Mr. Templeton.
If there's been any damage to them, Miss Carroll, I'll replace them. You never found me ungenerous, now have you?
Well, not exactly ungenerous, no.
I'll pay you the compliment, Miss Carroll, saying that you're the best secretary I ever had.
Thank you.
Yet you want to leave me.
Yes, I want to get married.
That's what Mr. Barnes is telling me. And who is this paragon of yours? What does he do? Does he make any money?
Well, Frank's a radio technician. He's not very wealthy, I'll admit.
Wealthy? A radio technician? I'll bet he doesn't make as much as I pay you. Yet you want to get married.
Well, is there anything very strange about that?
Yes, if it interferes with your career, if it... Good Lord. Look at that.
Look at what, Mr. Templeton?
Over there, where I'm pointing.
You mean that? It's only an old gravestone covered with weeds and brambles.
I haven't seen that grave in years.
It looks rather neglected.
It is neglected, isn't it? Will you go closer, please, and read the inscription?
Mr. Templeton.
Do as I tell you, please.
It says, let's see if I can get some of these weeds aside. It says, sacred to the memory of Mary Ellen Cleaver, born September 5th, 1892, departed this life March 25th, 1919. Thou shouldst still be adored as this moment thou art, let thy loveliness fade as it will. If you lower that umbrella, Mr. Templeton, you'll get soaking wet.
Sentimental crash. But she always liked it.
She always liked it?
Mary Ellen Cleaver.
Did you know her?
Very well indeed. She was my wife.
Your wife? But I never knew you were married.
Neither does anybody else. Where's my flask of brandy? What have I done with it?
It's in your hip pocket, Mr. Templeton, but do you think that's very wise? You've already had more than enough.
Whatever I do is wise, Miss Carroll. Well, we were married very young. She was a nice little thing. I was fond of her, yes. But she couldn't have helped me. I'm not a snob, but she wasn't in my class. No style, you know, no manners, no education.
Indeed.
Could I have introduced her to the friends I was making? No. Wouldn't have been kind to her. She didn't even want to go to the places where I was invited. She'd sit at home and say, what was it like? Did you have a nice time? What was Mrs. So-and-so wearing? And she loved me. I'll put that to her credit. But...
You left her?
I thought it was the kindest thing to do, yes. She went away. Then I heard she'd had...
Had what?
Nothing. Doesn't matter. Well, there was a war on. I attended the peace conference in Europe. Never even knew she was dead until I heard some friends had buried her.